Chapter 4 of Miss Pym's Camouflage. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Miss Pym's Camouflage by Lady Dorothy Stanley. Chapter 4. Miss Pym awaited that Sunday in a fever of expectancy. When she told her niece that Sir Robert Williamson and Sir Hector Russell were motoring over to tea the following Sunday, and that she and the vicar must see them in absolute privacy, Leslie could not conceal her chagrin. "But George is in the West Surreys. Surely he may meet the generals. Why, they could make him a captain, or even a major, right away." "No, I am afraid George cannot be there," said Miss Pym, "but possibly after our interview you could give them tea in the drawing-room." Leslie pouted. "It is so strange their coming at all. And why should they want to see you, Auntie Purr?" "It is about war work. I may even have to go to France. You see, dear, I am not quite a vegetable marrow," said Miss Pym rather maliciously. Leslie coloured up. Her aunt doing war work in France! Why, Miss Pym had never learnt nursing. She had not even done V.A.D. work, whereas Leslie had cleaned brasswork in the Torquay Hospital for quite 3 months. Still, George's father would see the great generals, and he might persuade them to give her fiancé promotion right away. Otherwise George might remain second lieutenant to the end. The library was turned out, and all the furniture was extra polished. On Saturday Miss Pym herself drove old Bobby to the station, and returned to the Manor with the leading morning papers, the Graphic and the Illustrated London News, the Sphere, the Sketch, the Tatler, Land and Water, Cornhill, and Blackwood. These were ranged on the large library table with the silver-handled ivory paper-knife. 3 war maps were fastened upon the walls. George Barton had been deputed to get the cigarettes and cigars. The late Colonel Pym's silver cigar and cigarette box was got out and polished by Miss Pym herself. That memorable Sunday in July was a most depressing day. Rain and hail beat against the windows. Miss Pym thought such weather would surely deter her expected visitors. When Mr. Barton walked in, she was so nervous she fairly jumped, and yet when a little later the 2 officers appeared, all her calm had returned, and she welcomed Sir Hector as an old friend. Sir Robert was thicker and sturdier, and the strangely winning smile of Sir Hector was absent. But he looked powerful and steady-eyed. There was something dauntless about that man which awed Miss Pym. Readily she passed from the substantial to the invisible, standing or sitting. Sir Robert handed her different articles. These, in turn, became invisible. He asked her to touch a chair. It disappeared. But when she touched the big table, only the part near her disappeared. Sir Robert made rapid remarks to Sir Hector in a low voice. The vicar took no part. He tactfully stood aside and left the great generals to discuss their ideas together, whilst General Pym, who had done with war, looked down on them with pale aloofness. "Well, Miss Pym, are you really willing to help us?" asked Sir Hector pleasantly. "Sir Robert and I have decided that you might do very valuable work." "Yes, I am quite at your service," said Miss Pym. "But, gentlemen, have you taken into account my limitations?" "We have," said Sir Robert rather curtly, "and we want to know the extent." "Do you speak German?" "Oh, yes, I talk German and French quite fluently," replied Perdita Pym, blushing. "But of course I do not understand military terms. But I could study military German from textbooks." "Ah, well, there's no doubt you could be of great use," said Sir Hector cheerfully. "I suppose you understand that we shall want you to go into the enemy's lines, and also we shall want reports on Germany and the German state of mind." "When can you start?" interposed Sir Robert abruptly. Miss Pym looked round at the vicar. "When?" she repeated vaguely. "Oh, when do you propose my going?" "At once. Just time to get a reply from the commander-in-chief out there." "I think," gently interposed Mr. Barton, It might be as well not to specify Miss Pym's peculiar gift or power. You might say that you are sending Miss Pym to headquarters, as you and Sir Hector have reason to believe she could be of great assistance, and what that assistance would be, Sir Hugh Douglas and his staff could best decide after meeting Miss Pym. Excellent suggestion, chuckled Sir Hector. Don't you see, my dear Williamson, if we described what our friend here calls Miss Pym's gift, why, we'd have Sir Hugh and the staff voting us quite mad. Nothing less than Miss Pym's disappearance in full committee of the staff in France will convince them. Miss Pym, we will adopt Mr. Barton's excellent suggestion, and in 4 or 5 days you will be able to start. You will be escorted to France, and everything possible will be done for your safety and well-being, so long as you are on our side of the line, added Sir Robert. Miss Pym, he asked her with a frown of concentration, but not unkindly, do you realize what you are in for? Very vaguely, said Miss Pym. Do you realize that you may be shot, for though invisible, you remain substantial, and therefore vulnerable? Do you realize that when you are across the line, beyond the German trenches, you are not beyond our fire? That when you actually enter Germany, you cannot travel in a railway carriage. There are no empty seats now in German trains. You can take no luggage, nothing but what you carry on you. Do you realize? But here Sir Hector, smiling, interposed. Ah, my dear Williamson, we mustn't discourage Miss Pym. It won't be so bad as all that. It will be an extraordinarily interesting experience, and in many cases so humorous. Think of this lady's power. She can dine with the generals, and have excellent champagne. She will not want luggage. She will take what she requires, everywhere and from anyone she pleases. By Jove, what a chance! What wouldn't we give for such a chance? Oh, the sport of it, and the thundering results! Miss Pym looked up at the faded pastel portrait of her ancestor, and said quietly, I wish with all my heart, Sir Hector, that I could pass my strange power on to you, but that is impossible, so you must make the best use you can of a very incompetent but very willing woman. I shall hope to be of good service, to bring back valuable information, and if I don't return, ah, well, I shall go the way of hundreds of thousands, better and younger. My kind friend here, Mr. Barton, said this was my call. Well, here I am, willing to go. Send me. Both the generals grasped Auntie Purr's hand. She blushed and made a little instinctive curtsy, then in a cheerful voice begged them to come into the drawing-room for tea. Leslie, all rosy loveliness, received them. George of the West Surreys was there, of course, and everyone had tea and home-made cakes and cream, and the generals talked to George and praised the West Surreys, and the vicar's rich baritone was heard gently booming again. The great men stayed quite a long time, and ate lots of my cake, said Leslie afterwards. When the motor had shot away down the drive, Leslie waxed enthusiastic. Auntie Purr, aren't they delightful? I wish I could marry him right away. Sir Hector? Said Miss Pym, smiling. Yes, he is most charming, most attractive. No, not Sir Hector, but the other, the thick-set, bulldoggy general, Sir Robert. I think he is simply angelic. Oh, come now, said George. That really won't do, Leslie. I can't have you talking like that. Where do I come in? Oh, George, and I never asked him to make you a captain. Jolly glad you didn't. It might have lost me my commission. Oh, I shouldn't have asked baldly like that. I should have made him feel that you were conferring the favor. I could have told him what a wonderful intellect you have, how you had just been made manager of the branch business when war broke out, and that my fiancée is a fascinating goose, added George. And my dear Miss Pym, asked the vicar, is she satisfied? Miss Pym looked up, startled from her reverie. Am I satisfied? Well, yes, I suppose I am. Satisfied and a little bit bewildered. But it has been a great day. And now for the great adventure. End of chapter 4.